Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on the Siley Stats YouTube channel. So today, quite a bit has changed in my ranking. So of course we're going to be talking about that. There are also some other things I want to talk about as we head into the regional and state phase of the Science Olympiad season. But of course, before we talk about any of that, we're going to do our random team shout out. So our random team for this video is Archbishop Hoban for let's see here, for getting third in witty at Solen. So if we go over to Solen here, Archbishop Hoban, congratulations on getting third in Write It, Do It. Very impressive. Now, let's get into the video. So, as you can see, let me talk about something first. So I added this part, this top 30. This is still a work in progress. I'm not going to talk about this. Like, a lot of this is probably really inaccurate. I just kind of threw this together last second. So don't take any of this for gospel. Don't take anything I say for gospel, first of all. But second of all, especially don't take this for gospel. Because it is very much a work in progress. I just kind of threw it together last minute. So if you see your school in the top 30 or like not quite where you think it should be, don't worry about it. I will be working on this in the coming days and weeks. Now, with that said, let's get into the rankings. So we're going to start, like I said, not in the top 30, but in the top 20 here. So in 20th place, moving down from 18th, is Stevenson. So we do have new tournaments here. This is the reason, of course, why my top 20 has changed so much. We have SOUP and UMich. These are the two big ones. We have some more minor ones here that I might mention in a minute. But really, these are the two big ones we're going to be talking about today. So Stevenson, here they are at SOUP, and man, they really did not do very well, now did they? Yeah, I mean, being beat by Cumberland Valley and Great Neck South, and really just all of these competitive teams. Like if Stevenson wanted to be in like the closer to the top 10 or in the top 10, they would really need to be beating Stuyvesant and Lower Marian and Westminster and even like Enlow and Montgomery. They should be at least competing with these schools. But really, I mean, they're at this tournament anyway, they weren't even really close to that. And again, if we just look at their record, Solen, not great. University of Chicago, they weren't really competing against anyone super competitive other than Loudoun here from Missouri. But yeah, Boysville, looks. Yeah, I mean, you guys have seen all this before. I don't need to show you this again. Yeah, really, Stevenson just not having a great year so far. Who knows? Maybe they can change things around at states. Maybe they'll be able to beat Nutrier. But those not great rankings are why I've moved Stevenson down and why I have Nutrier, why I'm favoring Nutrier to, again, this year be the Illinois state champion. So moving on, we have a new categorization. I believe I didn't have this orange thing here last video, this orange color coding. But this means that the school is a new addition to the top 20. So congratulations to Novi for breaking into the top 20. Now, Novi was always on my radar this season. They, of course, were the runner-up in Michigan last year. I've, like I said, had them on my radar for this whole season. Just outside the top 20, we really hadn't seen them, at their best yet. But here at UMich, they do look like they were not necessarily at their best, but certainly quite good here. Almost beating Nutrier here. Only an 8-point gap, not very big. Also, when you super score these two teams, they actually tie, which is really impressive. Nutrier does win the tiebreaker there, though. But, I mean, really, if we look at Novi's recent performances, there's that one. We got this, which looks like this might have been like their B team or something. And then Solen here, again, pretty decent at Solen. Didn't quite beat Carmel, but then up here at UMichigan, they most certainly did. So congratulations, Novi, for moving into the top 20. Maybe you could argue Stevenson should be ahead of Novi, but I'm going to give Novi the benefit of the doubt. Stevenson really just has not been doing very well this year. Next, we have Thomas Jefferson moving up since the last ranking. Now, Thomas Jefferson, it's a little disappointing for me because they had, before we talk about their new stuff, they had this really strong performance at Cornell. I mean, their unstacked teams here did amazing when you super score them. But really, since then, we haven't seen them competing against any competitive teams. They didn't go to MIT. We really just have 3 invitationals that they've gone to. So really just not a lot of data and not great data either. But not great data as in not against competitive teams, not like, not good performances. Because this is certainly a good performance. I mean, a super score of 45 is really good. Outcompeting Walton, which is not a bad team from Georgia, especially not this season, and just thoroughly outperforming their in-state rival Langley. Very impressive. Again, though, really, I want to see Thomas Jefferson compete against like one of these teams or even like any of these, because then we'll really have a better idea of where they stand. I want to see them compete, against Harriton and Lower Marian and Enlow. I mean, these are all teams within their like general region of the country, and it's not unreasonable to see all these teams at the same tournament. So I really want to see that to get Thomas Jefferson to get a better sense of where Thomas Jefferson is now. But for now, we're going to put him at 18. Next, we have Nutrier. So Nutrier was in 14th last video, and really, I think the reason I moved them down so far is because they really just the reason I moved them down so far isn't because they did anything incorrectly per se, but just a lot of teams have been outperforming Nutrier. So, for example, I have Stuyvesant ahead of Nutrier. That is one of the teams that's moved up quite drastically since the last video, and we'll get to them in a second here. But I moved Stuyvesant ahead, and then also Lower Marian. We'll talk about Cumberland Valley and Lower Marian again in a second. But Lower Marian came in to replace Cumberland Valley here as as my pick for the second Pennsylvania seat to nationals. There we go, and that really bumped Nutrier down as well. Because you can see in my last video, I had Nutrier beating Cumberland Valley, but I think Lower Marian would beat Nutrier. So really, again, just I mean, it's fine performance here at UMich. Nothing really wrong here, other than maybe your score and air trajectory. That doesn't look great. Just scroll through here. What is this? Forensics as well. So a couple bombs here, but nothing super major. Just again, not quite able to compete with these top teams, and again, almost beat by Novi, who again isn't a bad team. But when you're Nutrier and you're used to getting within the top 10, it's just not a fantastic performance. Not a bad performance, but not great. Next, we have Saset. So we do have another data point here for Saset. I'll do this. And it's not very good. Saset really, I mean, last year they were really good. And this year, just not great. MIT here, 13th, that's fine. Again, I mean, 16th, this is still a really good ranking, but not exactly where you want to be when you're Saset and you got 6th at Nationals last year. But 13th at MIT, not great. And then this new data point here, really not good. I almost think this was like their B team or something. In fact, it might have been. If this was their B, if you're from Saset, please let me know if this was your B team or not, if you want to share. Really being so thoroughly outperformed by Stuyvesant is really just not a good look for Saset there. So that is the reasoning for them moving down. Speaking of Stuyvesant. So Stuyvesant, I noticed early on, was a very good team this year. I had them, I think all season I've had them as the presumptive second seat to Nationals from New York. but really, SOUP is almost certainly their best performance yet this season. Let me get back to the top here so we can go through one by one. So, yeah, Stuyvesant, very strong performance here at SOUP. If we look at some of their other performances here at Yale, not the strongest competition. Also, this might have been their B team. Now that I'm looking at it, here at Brown, again, able to compete with Lexington. This isn't a super big gap there, at least not compared to some other ones. And again, compete with Lexington and Acton Boxborough. This is an amazing super score for them here. And then just I mean. Like I said, I've showed you guys all of this before. So really, the only stain on their resume is MIT, and I guess I said this about Cumberland Valley last year. So maybe I should be a little more cautious about rising Stuyvesant in the ranks. And when I go to do my official national ranking before the national tournament, I might dock Stuyvesant a little bit for this poor performance at MIT. But I mean, otherwise, especially recently, just a fantastic performance for Stuyvesant. Much better season than last year so far. So congratulations, Stuyvesant, on really rising the ranks here. Keep it up. Next, our second newcomer on the list is Lower Marian. So anyone who watches the channel regularly will know Cumberland Valley is my home team. So as much as it breaks my heart to put them out, to kick them out of the top 20 and give PA's second seat to Lower Marian, I need to go with the data. I can't deny that. Oh, did I spell Lower Marian wrong? I definitely did. Sorry, Lower Marian. Wait, did I? Oh yeah, I think I did. All right, sorry, Lower Marian. So anyway, yeah, Lower Marian with an E, not an A, is just thoroughly outperforming Cumberland Valley here. At SOUP, really just not even really close scores here. So, Lower Marian undisputedly what word am I searching for here? Undisputedly the current second place seat. Again, things can change. There's still quite a bit of time between now and states. But right now, my pick is Lower Marian. And I mean, apart from that, Lower Marian, I had to, of course, review their record for the whole season. It's good, right? I mean, Lower Marian, they're a really good team. They had a good record. Really, the only kind of stain is here at SOUP, where Cumberland Valley did manage to beat them. Of course, I'm going with the more recent rankings here at SOUP, not SOAPs. I mean, really just and Battle of Valley Forge, that might have been their B team though. And seeing their other rankings this year. Here at Cornell, pretty decent. 5th place at a competitive tournament. No laughing matter. Lower Marian, very strong team. Congratulations on making it into the top 20. Next, we have William G. Enlow, whose newest data point is SOUP as well. So getting second here at SOUP, very, very strong, outperforming Stuyvesant, Lower Marian, West Winster, Harriton, even. Actually, not when you super score Harriton. Harriton was... they might have been unstacked. Actually, they probably were unstacked, yeah. When you super score them, when you super score Harriton, they do beat Enlow. But still, very strong performance for Enlow here. So I did move them up, and of course they did beat Lower Marian at SOUP. Not by that much, though. Or actually, no, I was looking at Stuyvesant, sorry. And I should say the reason that I have Lower Marian ahead of Stuyvesant is because Lower Marian has a very slightly better record overall. Yes, Stuyvesant did beat Lower Marian at SOUP. And I mean, this gap, it is definitely significant, but it's not the biggest, I mean, that's about a little more than 15 points. I guess that's 22 points. It is a significant gap, but it's not the biggest gap, and Lower Marian just has a slightly better record this season. So it's very close between these two schools, I think. I do give the very slight edge to Lower Marian. Anyway, back to Enlow. Yeah, just a really good performance at SOUP here that allowed them to rise the ranks. Obviously, Montgomery still beats them very thoroughly here. Enlow, congratulations. Next, we have a couple teams who have not changed. I don't think I've gotten any other new data for any of these teams, so I'm not even really going to talk about them. They've earned their rankings here thus far, so we're keeping them there. Next, we have Harriton. So, Harriton, we do have a new data point for, and they've moved down one space, but that is, again, not necessarily their fault. Again, when you super score them, they have a really, really good super score. But there is a team that I had lower than Harriton who had a much better super score and who just did really well at this tournament overall. Of course, I'm talking about Montgomery, but we do have one more team to talk about before we get there. Monte Vista also moved down for similar reasons to Harriton. I just had them ahead of Montgomery, and then we might as well just talk about Montgomery. They had this amazing, amazing performance at SOUP here. Just a phenomenal super score, phenomenal overall team score, beating Enlow and Stevenson and all these other teams by more than 100 points. Absolutely insane. And again, beating Harriton by, what is that, 70-ish points in the super score. Just amazing. So there's a strong argument for them being ahead of Acton Boxborough because of that. But Boxborough also, we'll move on here, has also had some really strong tournament performances recently. Here, Lexington, again, very strong here, but Acton also very, very strong. Yeah, I think I said this in my last video, but Massachusetts could be really close this year. Acton Boxborough, you know them. They're a really good team. So I did keep Boxborough ahead of Montgomery for now. Next, let's talk about Solen and Mason. So I have a second new color code here, and that is an effective tie. So I did this last year for a little bit, and I'm bringing it back this year because these two teams are like neck and neck, and I cannot for the life of me decide which is better. And they can't either. I mean, look at this. Look at this. So Solen here, Mason beats Solen, right? And when you super score them, it gets even worse for Solen. But then here at UMich, Solen beats Mason by about the same margin as a Mason super score. Did I even super score Mason here? I did, yeah. So these are the super scores. Solen was probably stacked. Mason also probably stacked. But I mean, regardless, these scores are still kind of close here. These scores a little less close. So if I had to call it for one of these teams, I would say Solen. But again, I mean, these two teams they've kind of just I made a note here. Let's see here. It almost feels like come on, there we go. It almost feels like they're coordinating which team is going to beat the other at a certain invitational. Like, okay, we'll intentionally bomb this event to give you guys the win, just to confuse me. I'm telling you guys, it's a whole conspiracy. Anyway, so I mean, both these teams are phenomenal, right? I mean, third and second here, just phenomenal teams in Ohio here. So congratulations to both Solen and Mason this season. They're both having a fantastic season. And we're arguing over little bits of what am I trying to say? We're arguing over a couple points here or there that could tip the balance between either of these. So effective tie for now. Once we get more data, that will probably be broken. And of course, when I make my official final national predictions, I will have to break this tie. But for now, we're keeping it as an effective tie. That's a problem for later me. And Troy, of course, remains our presumptive or the predicted national champion, I should say. Haven't seen anything from them since MIT, but MIT is still really, really good for them. Yep, we're keeping them up here until further notice, until we see anything else that triggers us to move them up or down. Or well, I guess they can't go any higher, but move them down. So let's go through this to make sure that I'm not missing anything. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I'm not going to make. I do have, I believe, anyway, a prediction made for at least every state champion. Some of the states I go down to like top two, or like, Texas here, I do top four because Texas has four really good teams. New York, I did top five for some reason. But yeah, at least every state here has a presumptive state champion filled in here, or predicted state champion. I keep saying presumptive. Presumptive is like, we basically know. Predicted is we don't really know, and I'm just saying stuff. Anyway, so I'm not gonna like talk about this. What's the word? I'm not gonna talk about this. Like all of this. I'm not going to talk about all of these predictions. I will mention some here, though, and maybe in future videos I'll mention some others. So, Michigan, let's talk about Michigan real quick. So, I already mentioned Novi. Here's Michigan. And I'm filling in Troy as the second place spot in Michigan. Pioneer. Let's talk about Pioneer, shall we? Let's see here. Poor Pioneer, just not having a good season at all. I mean, UMich, I don't know. This could be their B team, but I mean, really just not a good performance at Solen, unless they've been sending their B team to like every tournament they've been to. Really, I just don't see Pioneer as a very good team this year. Like, I think these results kind of speak for themselves. Like, there's really just not a good ranking to show for Pioneer, unfortunately. And Troy just consistently. Oh, this is funny. Troy just consistently outperforming Pioneer at a couple of these, or not a couple, every tournament basically that they've both attended. So I am filling in Troy as as Michigan's second seat here. Pioneer, you still have time to turn it around, man. I mean, states. When is your states? April 26th, same date as here in PA. You still got time. I mean, we're 2 months away from states still. There's still time to turn this around, but really things just aren't looking very good for you. So sorry to say. Next, let's see here. Let's talk about Troy real quick. This is kind of funny. So I know last year I made kind of a big point about this. It was the reason that I included the state that the team is from here because of this. There are two Troys that are relevant to the discussions that we have on this channel. The first, of course, is California Troy, and the second is Michigan Troy. And I just thought it was really funny. At UMich, Michigan Troy named their team Troy, California, which I thought was pretty hilarious. I'll just show you guys real quick. Yeah, come on, that's pretty funny. That's good. That's a good reference. Troy is self-aware. That's pretty good. Anyway, moving on to important things. I've already talked about that. Colorado. Let's talk quickly about Colorado. Not one of the more competitive states here in Science Olympiad, but homeschool science could have a real challenge reclaiming their state championship title this year. If you remember, I talked about this last year, but Fossil Ridge. Their teams got second and third, but if you super score them, they actually beat homeschool science by quite a bit here. Not the biggest point difference, but certainly a big enough point difference that they would have gone to nationals if this was if they could have optimized their roster to get these rankings across the board. But unfortunately, they didn't. And I commented last year, I think that I interpreted this as a bad coaching decision. And I'm going to stick with that interpretation. I haven't heard anything from any Fossil Ridge people that might have like inside information as to why or how this happened. But I mean, yeah, if they can get a really good roster together this year, homeschool science could have some trouble reclaiming their state championship status. However, you'll notice I kept homeschool science in the first place spot here, because they have actually gone to some tournaments. One tournament, mind you, but Fossil Ridge, if we compare, I don't believe has gone to any tournaments. No, they have not. So at least not that are on here. If they did, I would have put them on here because I looked at this. But Yeah, so I do have homeschool science in the very slight advantage, but this could very easily go to Fossil Ridge as well. All right, let's see. Anything else? Aha, Indiana. So, oh, poor Carmel. Um, Man, I remember when Carmel was just super good, like top 10 at nationals good. Now, I mean, like I said, this section is a work in progress, but tentatively I have them in 26th place. And really, I mean, they could be challenged for their state's title here by Munster. If we take a look at these two teams, let's look at Munster. Um, Recently at UMich, Carmel did manage to beat them when you exclude super scores. But when you do super score, Munster beats Carmel not by a lot, but they still beat them. And I mean, if we look at some other tournaments here that they both attend, here again, Raymond Park, Munster, very obviously unstacked. When you super score them, again, they beat Carmel, not by that much, but they manage it. So, I mean, this could be really close this season. Um, I'll be watching this race very closely, of course. For now, I do have Carmel in the advantage since they are the reigning state champions. They, have home field advantage, I guess, as in that champion seat. Um, I'm like off the screen. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, I have Carmel in the advantage just ever so slightly. But yeah, I mean, if Munster can pull their best people from these unstacked performances, they could really bring a strong challenge to Carmel's state championship status. And we already talked about Michigan Troy naming themselves Troy, California. So I believe that is everything I want to talk about. So thank you very much for watching this video. Of course, I'll have a video probably out next week, depending on how much my rankings change next week. But yeah, and like I said, I probably won't make a whole video going over all of this. But if you really care about what I think about each of these races, you can pause and take a look at any of these. Let me do that. There you go. So I mean, yeah, if you want to do that, you can. I'm not going to go through all these, but I think that is the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day.